So, wars and rumors of wars, kingdom rising against kingdom, nation against nation. We read that passage from Luke 21 in the previous video if you watched it. It speaks of all the things that are going to be happening in the last days. And what we see is, again, nation against nation. It looks like the U.S. and Russia, again, are lining up. And this time not in Syria. They're already lined up in Syria, battling each other in a proxy sort of a war there. Russia sending Russian mercenaries in to fight against the various terrorist groups, and of course Israel and the United States are actually fighting against some of those groups, and apparently killing some Russian mercenaries in the act. But on top of that, we have a battle line being drawn up in Venezuela with Maduro, with most Western governments supporting the Guaido, the other person who basically has called himself president of Venezuela. Well, Russia, who is heavily invested in the oil fields of Venezuela, is currently propping up Maduro. And so we have a situation here. Two articles from both sides. One is that Russia is building up military there and sending some military contractors. Two is that the U.S. is getting troops ready on the ground to go into Venezuela and potentially help prop up the Guaido government or supposed interim government. Vladimir Putin backs Nicolas Maduro with military contractors to Venezuela. Russia is playing high-stakes game in the mounting crisis in Venezuela, where the socialist President Maduro has been mortgaging part of the country's oil resources in exchange for financial and military support from Moscow. So very similar to Syria, where Bashar Assad is really relying on Moscow to be its military support, and Iran to some extent, to a large extent. And of course, then you have the other interests there who don't want this country militarized in such a way, and want a free and democratic society, and so they're coming in with their military. Latin America is far from Russia, and Venezuela is impoverished, surrounded by hostile neighbors, and squarely in the crosshairs of the Trump administration. But for a variety of reasons, Vladimir Putin sees Caracas an ally worth cultivating, i.e. because there's money there in oil and they've invested so much. The Kremlin has managed to maintain decades-long relationship with Cuba's communist regime, whose intelligence services have worked closely with Russian advisors to make inroads into Venezuela's military. So there's military intelligence and spying and sharing of information between the militaries there. And its reserve-rich oil sector. Remember, what is Russia's interest in anywhere, really? Russia's interest is money, oil. And that's why they're going to be going into Israel in Ezekiel 38. One of the main drivers is to take a spoil. That's exactly what the Bible says. So they're interested in money, getting booty, getting wealth from the country that they're invading. They don't care about wiping Israel off the map, although in terms of spoil and getting rid of Israel, their viewpoints and their goals align with Iran, whose goal is to wipe Israel off the map. In the fact that they both want Israel gone because they each want different things, but they both want Israel gone ultimately. And so Russia is looking to take a spoil in Venezuela as well. It says, under U.S. populist leader Hugo Chavez, Maduro's late predecessor and political mentor, Russia became one of Venezuela's strongest allies with economic ties, including crude oil. So it's all about the money. Follow the money, and you'll find out what Russia is doing and why Russia is doing it. Now here's another article. This is from the Economic Collapse blog. Please tell me that the U.S. is not about to go to war with Venezuela. And so this is the suggestion that the U.S. now has 5,000 troops in Colombia waiting to go over to Venezuela. And so this is the writing that they found on the back of John Bolton's notepad at a White House briefing, where it was written 5,000 troops to Colombia scribbled on it. Is the United States about to be dragged into another pointless war that will drag on for years? When Guaido boldly declared himself the new leader of Venezuela, everybody realized there was something up. There's no way he would ever have done that unless he knew in advance that the United States was publicly going to back him. So did Guaido know that before he just declared that he was the new president, the de facto president? It says, when John Bolton appeared at the White House in a press briefing with 5,000 troops to Colombia scribbled on a yellow notepad, it became increasingly clear what was about to happen. Diplomatic pressure would then be used to force Nicolas Maduro out from power, but if that didn't work, then regime change would be achieved by force. Are we going into another Iraq at this point? I shouldn't say we. Is the United States going into another Iraq? I don't think Canada is involved at this point in time. It says Maduro has seen this playbook before, and he has told his Venezuelan people that if North American empire attacks us, we will have to defend ourselves. He is officially freaked out, and for good reason, it says. And so this is a situation. Russia is sending troops, military personnel, military contractors. The U.S. has troops in Colombia. 5,000 apparently is the supposed number that are in Colombia, ready to do covert activities or support Guaido should violence start or an overthrow start to occur. And so we have, again, battle lines, first in Syria, now in Venezuela. We have battle lines drawn up directly between the U.S. and Russia. So just like Israel and Iran are battling directly, it's open confrontation between two nations, not just a proxy war. Now we have the beginning of open confrontation, no more proxy battles between Russia and the U.S., basically lining up in Venezuela. And the interest there, not sure what the interest of the U.S. is at this point. It's likely going to boil down to money, but certainly Russia's overt interest in Venezuela is definitely the money, as they have invested billions of dollars in the oil fields. So if it goes to a Democratic president and he lets those countries go public again, as opposed to government-controlled, then Russia will potentially lose that deal and lose billions of dollars that they've invested. So this is the current situation, and this is the build-up to war. And what do we expect in the last days? We expect wars and rumors of wars, nations against nations, as spoken of in Luke 21. Go and read the passage. And it's being fulfilled before our eyes in these last days. This is going to increase in frequency and intensity. I think we're in the last moments of the build-up. I think we have less than 3 years before the start of the 7-year tribulation, based on my understanding of it right now, which is similar, interestingly, to Robert Breaker's view, and I put my view out before I had any understanding as to what he actually believed about it. And so I think 2021 is the start of the 7-year tribulation, which means some of these big wars have to kick off fairly shortly in the next year and a half in order for all to be fulfilled, which we expect to be fulfilled, Isaiah 17, Ezekiel 38, prior to the start of the 7-year tribulation. So, guys, I'll leave it there for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting, and please subscribe if you haven't yet. And as always, we will see you guys in the next video.